right from the 1960s, when Nigeria got its independence, the first coup, corruption was mentioned.
As in, how can the people now contribute in this fight against corruption?
When you look at it, fighting of corruption is not one man business. It's the teamwork. It's the teamwork. If we can come together and fight corruption, we can bury everything overnight.
As a citizen of Nigeria,
what can be done to make the society better? You know, as a woman here, you know, as a mother.
The society doesn't want to give these women opportunities because they think these women can come and dominate the role men play in the society.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the program, The Advocate. My name is Jack Vincent Fidelis and I'm your host. On the program today, as usual, we deliberate on issues of anti-corruption and accountability in governance. To discuss this, I have as my guest, Mr. Habu Kale Tijani Yajiwa. He is the coordinator of Borno's Social Media Frontiers, popularly known as the BSF. Sir, you are most welcome. I'm going to kick off. How would you define good governance?
First of all, thank you very much for inviting me for this very important platform. Good governance, when you want to define good governance, you cannot go on directly and define and say, this is good governance, or this is what defines good governance. For me, if I have to define good governance, it has a lot of elements. Good governance for me is the provision of the yearnings and expectations of the people, deliverance of electionary promises of politicians to the people, meeting of the requirements that needs to develop the country, state, or nation. So, for good governance to stand, it has to be transparent. One, even outside the government, can sit back and dissect and see what is going on in the government. How is the government being run? How are the public funds being utilized? So when you have to say good governance, it has to follow all these elements before you define what is good governance.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I appreciate that. Okay, you are the coordinator of Borno Social Media Frontiers.
Yes, of course.
I'm willing to give you this platform to tell our viewer what you do.
Actually, it is the good advocacy for good governance is part of what we do in Borno Social Media Frontiers. Wherever you are, in any kind of situation, any kind of setup, there must be an accountability, especially in governance. And we all the sectors, all stakeholders must contribute. In our part, as the Borno Social Media Frontiers, we advocate, we look into projects where whenever we see in, we always try to remind the government on what it should do, or if it has made any kind of promise in the past, we try to remind them. And then, it is not always follow someone and say he must do this, he must do that, and then continuously be at their back. Sometimes when the government of the day does something that is worthy of being shown to the world, we also exhibit it. So that's why we go into any kind of all the departments. We see any kind of work that the government does, we blow it out so that the whole world will see. And then by doing that, we will encourage the government, we will encourage all the stakeholders, any kind of funding that is coming from outside, the donor will be happy to donate. And then the electorate too, maybe they might not know what is going on in other parts of the state or country. So by doing that, as you know, right now, social media has already gone into the nook and crannies of this world. Almost from a survey that was conducted not more than 3 months ago, almost 75% of every youth, or all the youth in this country, use social media. And then about 65 of them, of the elders, use social media. So, you know, it is the easiest way to showcase what the government is doing, what the government should do, where the government is needed, and so on. So, in Borno social media contest, this is what we do. We advocate, we suggest, we advise, and then we showcase the good side of the government.
All right, thank you. Nigeria is a country that is known to be endowed with a lot of human and natural resources.
Exactly.
All states of the Federation are so blessed.
Exactly.
But if you go on the same social media you talk about,
Yes.
you will notice that Nigerians are complaining about hardship. Nigerians are complaining that they are suffering. Now, what in your assessment can be done to make the electorates happy, to make the masses happy by the government? What can they do?
Well, let me correct the notion that you said that Nigerians are suffering. That Nigerians
No,
are suffering.
I did not say Nigerians are suffering. I said Nigerians complain that they are suffering.
You know, it is the whole world. Right now, the whole world has been in recession, and right now, most part of the world is in recession.
You will agree with me.
Yes.
You may agree with me that what goes on in the country is not commensurate with the amount of resources that we have, both in terms of natural and human.
Yes,
that's the point I'm trying to make.
I agree with you.
Okay.
But you know, the government needs to stand up.
Okay.
Especially, you know, there are so many agitations from the people, like the restriction on importation.
Okay.
Honestly, the government needs to review that. There are so many commodities that we still need its importation into the country that has been restricted. We need to review that.
I thought the government action is to build and develop local production.
Yes, exactly. But you have to produce that. You have to make sure that the local production is enough before restriction does. Yes.
All right.
You cannot just restrict while your home is empty.
It means the people will suffer.
Yeah, exactly. You must make sure that you have enough in your store before restricting those that are coming in.
So, like I said, what in your assessment can be done to make the electorates happy?
Well, actually, the government needs to open up. It needs to, deregulate so many things. The economy needs to be revamped, and then corruption needs to be adequately fought. Although the government right now is fighting corruption, but it still needs to do more, because corruption is one of the aspects that brings about this suffering that people are complaining. You see one person sitting on top of resources of more than 100 people. If the corruption crusade goes on very well, I believe that things will ease up and people will be happy and the complaints will cease out.
Thank you. Well, in case you are just joining us, the program is The Advocate, a program designed to deliberate on issues of anti-corruption and accountability in government. This program is sponsored by the MacArthur Foundation and CITAD. My guest, Habu Kale Yajiwa, is the coordinator of Borno Social Media Frontier. He has been doing very well, and I quite appreciate him. Well, sir, how can corruption and lack of accountability in governance be curbed? From your experience as the coordinator of the Social Media Frontier that is doing so well and that people are proud of.
You know, corruption cannot be carved out without exposing the perpetrators. There are so many cases that we have seen that are being exposed, but up to now, most of those that are not being arraigned, only a few have been arraigned. But as I said earlier, the government needs to be aggressive. And, you know, it's not only the government, all the people, all the citizens must sacrifice. We must at least, as the popular campaign in the first regime of President Muhammad Buhari, that the change begins with me.
Yeah.
That campaign should go on. The change must begin with me. It must begin within our house, within our children. We must make sure that we sacrifice ourselves to the nation. We must always remember or take into our heart, what will we do to our country instead of what will I gain from my country. Unless we take that patriotism, we will continue to suffer, and corruption will always be there with us.
Thank you. Thank you for spending part of your precious time with us thus far. It's at this point that we'll have to pay some bills. Please stay tuned.
Right from the 1960s, when Nigeria got its independence, the first coup, corruption was mentioned. As in, how can the people now contribute in this fight against corruption?
When you look at it, fighting of corruption is not one man business. It's a teamwork. It's the teamwork. If we can come together and fight corruption, we can bury that thing overnight.
As a citizen of Nigeria,
What can be done to make the society better? You know, as a woman here, you know, as a mother.
The society doesn't want to give these women opportunities because they think these women can come and dominate the role men play in the society.
Thank you for staying tuned. The program is The Advocate, a program designed to deliberate on issues of anti-corruption and accountability in governance. My guest, Habu Kale Yajiwa, coordinator of Borno Social Media Frontier, has been with us and he has been impressive. Sir, how can you use your medium, I mean the BSF, how can you use that BSF to fight corruption in the system using social media?
You know, fighting corruption is one of the trickiest and most dangerous thing in the world right now. You can fight corruption anywhere, in any kind of platform, but you have to have established facts in any kind of situation, especially in the case of corruption. You have to make sure that what you are fighting for must stand anywhere, even in the court of law. We cannot just go out and say and try to expose corruption or anything related to it. But one thing we are doing, and that it is part of our mandate, is our campaigning. We are being enlightening people. We are telling people to know that corruption does not pay. We have to shun corruption to let our country move on. Because by showcasing the negative sides of corruption, it is one of the ways that we have been using in social media to fight corruption. But directly, when you say you will fight corruption, you will fight a lot of forces. And at the end of the day, the forces will fight you back. So that is something that we are treading carefully.
I remember the story of I.G. Wala. You must have heard of him.
Yes, exactly.
And then how he was able to use social media in his own words to fight people in the system.
Yes.
But he is in prison today because he didn't have his facts right.
Yes.
The
case of I.G. Wala is one of the most unfortunate
cases
that happens in this country, especially in the social media world.
Why unfortunate?
Well, unfortunate is that he's someone very active, a youth who has Nigeria at heart, who is fighting corruption. But upon all the hard work he has done, it is just a few mistakes has now
landed him
in the jail. It is just what I was saying earlier, that without any established fact, you cannot go in and fight corruption. It was his overzealousness that causes this, you can say that. He couldn't get any established facts, although he was saying that he has facts, but at the end of the day,
when it mattered, he couldn't produce
it. And now it is obvious that he must spend all those, I think, 12 years behind bars.
Well, if one is to borrow a leaf from what happened to that young man, one should be careful with facts and figures before one goes all out to make allegations. That is what personally I pick from that story.
Exactly. And it is amounting to fake news.
Yeah, fake news, dangerous news, hate speech, and stuff like that. Now, having said that, you see, I don't think that is enough for us to be afraid of the forces in the system. Somebody needs to speak out. Good.
But one thing I want you to understand is we as Nigerians first, we have to cleanse ourselves.
Okay.
Because corruption has been here for so long. It has become part and parcel of Nigerians' life.
If we don't fight it,
we will
continue to live with our problems.
Yes. But someone has to start it. But if you want to start it, you will have to start it in the right way. You cannot just come out and say, I'll fight corruption without any kind of plan, without any kind of a roadmap. You have to make sure that what you are fighting, you must have your ways, that you must have a roadmap to. Wherever you see a corruption, you must ensure that when you start, you finish it. It's not something that you start and stay and stop halfway. That's the problem.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, we've had our elections. We now know who our political leaders are.
Yes.
I want to know from you what advice you have for political office holders, especially the incoming political office holders in our home state, Borno.
This your question refers me back to the first question: what is good governance?
Good.
My advice to them is all the new incoming political office holders must make sure that they do all they can to deliver their electioneering campaigns promises. They must make sure that all those promises that they made, or the mistakes that the past government made, they should correct it. And, it is not stopping there. There are so many governors, there are so many political office holders that have done well. So those that are coming in should also consolidate on what those that are going out have done to make sure that what the formers started shouldn't go in vain. They should consolidate it. And one thing that is disturbing us in this country is that is retarding our development is we don't think critically. The political office holders should think critically. They should think of what the country needs to do to move forward.
Thank you. And then, from what you said, I understand that continuity is of paramount importance in governance.
Exactly.
There should be
need
continuity.
Yes. Continuity with innovations.
That's right.
We cannot be conservative always.
Yes.
What has been started is good, but when you will continue, you will innovate and then expand it.
I remember that in Kano State, the outgoing Konkoso and the incumbent Ganduje, they had loggerhead.
Yes, exactly.
But Ganduje continued
with
most of the project of his predecessor for the benefit of the people of Kano.
Exactly, and he has delivered.
And he has been able to do well with that.
Exactly.
So, I guess the incoming government, from your advice, is expected to follow the same trend
for
the benefit of the good people of Borno State.
Exactly.
It's at this point,
the outgoing governor has done well, and I believe that the incoming governor will do even better.
That's
our
hope and prayer.
Hope and prayers.
Thank you very much. I must say thank you to you for gracing our show with your presence. And then I hope that subsequently, if we invite you, we'll have you here again.
Anytime.
I appreciate you. Thank you very much. Well, that is the much we can take on the program for this week. If you've had a good time being with us, then keep it at same time, same station next week for another wonderful episode of the same program. Until then, so long.